Asbirg, Ade, Grand Rising Asbirg, and welcome to show number 14 of the Coffee Diaries. And today is a special show. It's taken a long time for it to come to fruition, so thank you very much. Learning through film. How are you, Ade?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah. Trying a new virtual background with our logo here. It's kind of like I'm going in and out because I don't have a green screen behind me.
Okay.
So the my technical side is gets obsessed over these. I'm going to be thinking about that for the whole show. So I got to let that go.
And Asbirg, Grand Rising, and how are you?
Grand Rising, Ran and Ade. I'm so excited to be here. To be honest, the whole day I was like, oh my god, because it's afternoon now, and we just had these huge storms, like 2 storms coming through. I mean, not too big for some stuff you see on the TV, but still it was exciting. And now it's calming down. So that's the situation over here in Germany.
Wow, like snowstorms too.
No, just super windy, very windy, and loads of water in the north of Germany. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Was there a lot of flooding and things like that?
Yeah, and you find like stuff in your garden that's not supposed to be there. Just small things like that.
Oh no.
But nothing compared to snowstorms in New York, I guess. So.
Yeah, it hasn't been that bad, for us this winter, but yeah, got kind of lucky. So I'm excited I watched your film and I love it. I love how it all comes together, like really nicely. And so for those of you joining, also I want to say hello and welcome to the viewers on Facebook and here on Zoom. So we have a few people here on Zoom. I'll be monitoring the chat. So on Facebook and Zoom, if you have any questions for any of us, just comment in the chat section. So do you want to set up your film? I think I figured we would start with your film. How's that sound, Ron?
Yeah, Ade, 1 second. Let's just go through the behind actually showing the films, because the idea was when we talked was it's a great opportunity for people who are doing projects, whether they be art, poetry, songwriting, filmmaking, writing a book. And a lot of times they get to a stage where they don't know what to do, or they feel nervous, or they're not sure. And we were talking about the idea of, okay, what about if we bring on someone to talk to Asbirg, who made a movie, wrote a script, and yourself as well, and you made a movie, you've made loads of films, and you're working on scripts, and maybe that will inspire other people. I have an idea, I can do something with it, I can pull it out there, and it doesn't always take going to do a course or going to college or finding out something else, because I think that maybe sometimes the best learning is just doing it.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully when we hear you and Asbirg speak about your films, anybody out there who's got an idea may be inspired.
Great. Yeah. Yes.
Go
ahead.
I just before we go deeper, and we're gonna watch both films, but I also watched your film and I really liked it, and I loved the quote at the end.
Oh, thank you.
It all came together, and I love the people in it because they're really strong, and you can read from their faces. Because I was like, they're not talking, and that's the best in movies, if you don't need to talk and everything is shown.
Yeah.
And then really late into it, they start talking, and I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I really liked it. But we're gonna start talking about it in a few minutes. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. So so how should we start? Do you want to? Did you want to, Ron? Do you think we should talk a little first, or watch and then talk, or?
Maybe Asbirg can do a slight intro to the film, then we'll watch it, and then afterwards we can
talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the movie is called Flores. It means like flowers in Spanish. And I didn't study film. I studied film studies later in my master's, but not when I did that short film. And I went to loads of different festivals working there in the background, and I found that loads of the movies were quite sad or so tragic, and they were not really encouraging. And I said, before I did a documentary and I wanted to do a positive film, I was like, when this next project is going to go to festivals, I want to go to leave the audience in a better place, to kind of spark hope, to really encourage people. And that was the one side. And the other side was that I wanted to have people who inspired me, who were with me the years before I made the movie. I kind of want to keep them in a way. Some people say when you take a photograph, you really you catch the person in that moment, and it's kind of frozen in time. And that's what I wanted to do with that movie. So I was there. I had nothing, basically. So I started asking all my friends to help me out. I wrote a script, and I made it in a way that I was able to shoot it in one day. But it was outside, so I was really depending on the weather and also on the people from all the different places to come by. So there were a few obstacles along the way, even a few days before, like one person was really ill in the hospital, stuff like that. I can explain it once we watched it. But in the end, everything turned out. And I think that's very important for all the people who are going to see this or watch it. Like Ran said, it's really about just doing it. Like if it's on your heart, if it's on your mind, if it's keep bothering you in the back of your head, then you have to do it. It's a story you need to tell, probably. My opinion. I don't know what how you see it, but that's my experience. So to just add this little thing was really to organize all the people, lots of volunteering, everybody helped, and the weather was fine. It was actually beautiful and perfect, so it was good. And it works out. If it has to be, if the story has to be there, then it's gonna work out, definitely. If it's a poem, if it's a piece of art, if it's a video, and whatever, it's gonna come into the world if it needs to be here, for sure.
Great. So I'm excited to show it. Let's see.
Every age has its turn. Every branch of the tree has to learn to grow, find its way, make the best of this short-lived day. Take the seed, take the spade, take this dream of a better day. Take your time, build a home.
There is no such thing as a coincidence.
Build a place where we all can belong. Some things change, some remain. Some will pass us unnoticed by. What to focus on, to improve upon, in the face of our ancient tribes. Feels so clear, feels so obvious to each one on the road. But we're here together.
Hallo, junger Mann. Das Wichtigste ist Toleranz.
Have a song. We don't choose where we're born. We don't choose in what pocket or form, but we can learn to know ourselves on this globe in the void. Take this mind, take this pen, take this dream of a better land. Take your time, build a home, build a place where we all can belong.
Yay!
Yay!
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I love it. It and who did did you find someone to do the music, or did you find music on your own, or?
Oh, that's a good story to tell. Um, so the music is by José González. He's quite famous for a piece which was used in an advertisement. So he's in Europe. He's quite big, and his new album came out, and I heard this song, and I was still looking for music, and I was like, this song is perfect, but this guy is like unreachable. Like, how am I ever gonna get a response if I email him or whatever? And then my friend said, you just have to meet him. You have to talk to him, because during that time I was living in the Netherlands and he was playing in Amsterdam. So really old school. I was waiting outside in the afternoon before the concert, and I was like, some people came out and went in again and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm really sorry, but I'm looking for José González. Is there any chance like I can talk to him? Like really, like a fangirl moment, like really like in the 90s. And one guy was like, yeah, we have a sound check at the moment, but afterwards probably you can talk to him. So I was still waiting outside. It was a bit cold, but he was like, yeah, in 1 or 2 hours it should be fine. So I went and had a coffee and came back. And he really came out, and he's like this really friendly guy. And I was like, hey, Jose, I'm really sorry, but I made this movie and I'm still looking for a song. And I was like, he probably thinks I'm crazy, but he was so friendly. And of course, in that moment, my phone didn't work, so I couldn't show it to him. And he was like, oh, come inside and you can send me the link, and we can check it on my phone. So he watched it and he was like, is it going to be commercial? And I was like, no, it's not. It's just like for private use and for festivals. And he was like, yeah, it's fine. I really like it. Go and use the song. So now we have this really beautiful song and the right to use it. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, it's a great story that so anyone listening who's interested in making film, like it's these stories that could be inspire to to take that chance and into the uncertainty. If I bet you didn't imagine that was going to happen. So
no, not at all.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit about your writing process for this film.
Yeah, so I had bits and pieces. So as you can see, the young man is meeting 3 different people. One of them, now you saw it, it's Ran Osha. So I know Ran since a long time, so he had to be in the movie. He flew all the way from London to Münster and was here for like 3 days. So yeah. So I'd like this I had him, and it's always a saying between us, there's no such thing as coincidence, since all these years we know each other, because we always have these things happening and they are not a coincidence. So that was one piece. Then I had this old lady. I was actually cleaning for her while I did my studies, and we became friends. And she was married for over 50 years. And I was like, how did you do that? Like, I was wondering, because so many people are breaking up and it's not going well. And she said, the most important thing is tolerance. So I was like, okay, you are really old, you're really wise. So that's also something I need.
Yeah.
At the same time, and always in my life, I've been taking care of kids a lot. And they're not saying much, but they do everything with all their heart. They're just there. And they're just kids with a children's perspective on life. So for me, it was like, they need to be there too. They don't need to say anything, but they need to be in the movie.
Yeah.
So I had these 3 pieces, and then I needed kind of the story around it to make sense. And I don't actually remember how that happened. That's also something when you start writing, and you two gonna know it too. When you start writing things and you start it, it's gonna start grow inside us. It starts to grow inside of you. So you start with a little bit here and a little bit there, and it comes together. Once it has space in your mind to grow, it's gonna come up. So you just need to plant the seed, in my opinion. So I knew this guy who's with the curls in the beginning, and I worked in a yoga studio, and there was this one client. It's the girl he looks at and runs after. And I met her once, and I was like, yeah, but she's perfect because she has this first impression, and she can have this look at him, and he can look at her. So I think I found her on Facebook again. And then I just asked her if she could play the part, and she was like, "Yeah, sure." And again, I was thinking, I'm crazy. You can't ask and stalk a person like that. But most people are very happy. You just need to explain what you want to do, and most people are so happy once they are seen and recognized, and also people realize what you're up to, if you're like in a good spirit or not. So, yeah. So. Yeah, that was, but then of course things happen, and the old lady was in the hospital, like I said, for 2 weeks before we started shooting. And she's essential for this part, as you could see. And I wasn't sure if she was able to come. And Ran booked already his flight. All my friends were organized. The camera was organized, everything. So I really prayed hard and hoped that she could make it, and she was there. So that was beautiful. And one thing I want to add, and because that was very important for me to tell today, is you have an idea, but maybe it's not going to go the way you want to. So what happened with Flores, like I said in the beginning, I really made it to be shown at festivals. I really wanted to contribute for people to have a good day, to leave with a feeling of hope, like I said. But Flores was rejected from loads of festivals. And even people that I know who work at the festivals, and I was like, it leaves people with such a good feeling. I know that because I've shown it to different audiences. What happened? Why do you? And they were like, yeah, it's too happy. Like it's too happy. It's too positive. Our visitors, they don't want to see things like that. And I was like, what? Are you serious? So it was shown in a short film festival in Berlin. So I was very excited about that opportunity. And it went perfect. It was a block of lots of different nature films and stories playing in nature. So it fitted in perfectly with all the green. But like I said, that was very surprising for me. And still I was like, no, Flores has its place in the world and it needs to be there. So that's fine. And it grew and it's fine. But I just want to, if you have the perspective of you have a certain aim, maybe you're not going to reach that aim or that goal. Maybe it's going to go in a different direction, but it doesn't need to be better or worse. It's just what happens with it. So. Oh, you're on mute, Ade.
Are you on mute, Ade?
Okay, yeah, I muted it. Yeah, because the kids are in the other room. They were like yelling and playing, so. Yeah, the whole festival thing can be very frustrating. I've experienced it many times, and even going to festivals and having my films in some of them, like some of the films that that are in like the majority of the films, like one film after another, there's like it's always dark, violence and things of that nature. It's not really uplifting films that leave you feeling good. And yeah, so it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how, like, we, watching your film, and you couldn't help to notice the brilliant acting of Ron. How many takes did that take?
I can't remember. Not too many.
Okay.
Not too many. We had a really tight schedule, super tight.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times. Ron, do you remember?
No, it was a few times at Asbirg, yeah, but the whole day was fun.
Yeah. Was it shot in a day?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, what was it? What else I was going to ask you? Yeah, I just love how it all comes together, each person given the piece of the flowers. And what made you, like, how did you come up with that idea of using the flowers and
I wish I would have the perfect answer right now, and I don't. I was just like, I wanted a metaphor for that. That's what the 3 people are doing, or the 3 parties. I wanted a metaphor for that they are giving something to the young man, which he needs later on. So I was thinking of what could that might be. And then really quickly came the idea up with like flowers or plants. So yeah. So the old lady, for example, gives him forget-me-nots because that was one. But it was very hard to get flowers to keep them. You have those failings in movies, or when you do, like, when you have no budget at all and just do it by yourself. So one failure was like, I was thinking, oh, we need all these flowers, but somehow we couldn't really keep them fresh. So in the end, they don't look like they should have looked at the end, because it was like this all day. So if I would shoot again, of course I would like organize then like having all flowers like 3 times more to use them in the different places, stuff like that. So when the old lady came, she was a bit upset. She was like, my flowers are not fresh anymore. What does that mean? I was like, don't take it personal. It's like, it doesn't mean anything for you.
Yeah. Just use it.
Yeah.
Incorporate it into the character.
Yes, it still makes sense. I swear to you, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like this. Ron and I sometimes talk about omens. So it's like this lead character gets these different omens, and he has to put it together. So I like that moment where he figures it out. Like everything has happened for that reason, and then taking that leap of faith, taking that chance, and it seems like it doesn't even matter as much as what happens between him and the girl or anything like that. It's just that he takes that leap into the uncertainty and yeah.
Perfect interpretation. Yeah.
That's a phrase that Ade and I use quite a lot, that leap into the unknown.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, because while you were there, you had all these people. I remember there was someone who brought lunch, and then you had all these people around. How did you get all these people? And I remember there watching you organizing these things. How did you find that? How did you find that role of being a director?
So first of all, I know all these people from work or from my studies, or they were different people. So the girl who made the lunch, we worked together in a cafe in a kitchen. So I know and I knew she's so good at it, and she's gonna feed all these people in the grass next to the street where we were filming. And actually, it was quite a lot that day. Like while I was doing it, I was like, "Oh, it would be very nice to have me like 2 times. Like that would make things so much easier." And I was really lucky because Jakob and I, the director of photography, we met before several times, and we made like little sketches, etc. So he knew exactly what I wanted him to shoot. And so he was doing it very much on his own in some situations, because, for example, the scene with the kids was very challenging because every time the camera was on, they had no fun in doing anything. But once it was off, they were like yelling and running around, having so much fun with each other, because they are friends anyways. They know each other. So that was really like, "Oh, are you serious right now?" So I had to really encourage them and lead them into the situation. But what helped me so much was that I knew all my friends who were there that day. They were there 100% and volunteering 100%. I explained the idea to them, and they were so happy to contribute. They were just like, "Yes, I would like to do that." So they had this one day, and being there, I think it's easier if it's not a long time. Like now I'm planning a shoot for like 4 days, and it's not so easy to have so many people volunteering for 4 days. Actually, this time probably it's going to be no one besides me. So things are changing. But it's really trust and knowing people. And some people I didn't know that well, but I had a feeling about them and trust in them. And I wasn't disappointed. Everything turned out well, even afterwards.
Yeah. So for those viewing, essentially, it sounds like you did the producer role. And director role. You wore a lot of hats. So normally when in higher budget film sets, you have different people taking on these roles. You have assistant director, producer, line producer, all these different roles, and production assistant, all these. But when you're having to make low budget independent films, then you're wearing all these hats, and it could be exhausting. I'm sure you've probably experienced some of that. I think, did you find it beneficial in what you've learned from doing those different roles? Besides just the directing, yeah,
definitely. Like the next time we're going to have the team's going to be a little bit bigger and more professional, and it's, of course, because people are going to know what they're going to do and what they need to do. And this time all the communication was on my side, and I had a lot of helping hands. But when we came in at the shoot, of course I needed to explain everything to everyone, and if there were small obstacles, I needed to solve it, etc. And also, if you're shooting outside, you need to communicate with the people passing by, etc. So you're learning it, and I think it helps a lot because you have the different perspective of things, and it also you become really humble because okay, I'm here on my own, and the other people are here, and maybe next time it's going to be different, and you're really going to appreciate everybody who's there in that moment and also in the future. So yeah. I mean, how was it for you? Are we going to talk about it later? Maybe after.
Maybe.
I would love to hear your experience.
Yeah, because I still want to. There's a few more questions, especially about your experience working with your actors. Were there rehearsals ahead of time? And do you leave room for improvisation and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So what makes things, maybe it sounds a bit stupid, but what makes things so much easier if you have actors who are really close to the role that they are playing. So what I was looking for, I was thinking, because during that time I was living together with some actors from the theater in this town. So that connection could have worked out to ask those, and maybe they would also have volunteered to help out. But I was really looking for authenticity. Oh, yeah, I hate this word in English.
Authenticity, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Ade. So I was really looking for friends or people like the girl from the yoga studio who are close to what I was looking for. So what I did, for example, was the girl and the boy didn't meet much. They never met before, and they didn't meet much during that day. Maybe 1 or 2 times that they just said hello, because I was like, there needs to be this spark in the moment once they meet, so they shouldn't be able to talk before. That was just my instinct. So, and it went perfectly well, as you can see. Like there's something is happening. So it was the opposite with the kids, because with the kids and Tim, there needed to be a connection. Otherwise, it's like if they don't like him or if they're suspicious, they want to have fun around him, right? So during that day, I planned like, I don't know, half an hour or 20 minutes where they met and they could talk to each other. And of course, they were excited because he was like the actor of the day. So that worked fine. But I can really encourage you, if you have a low budget, look for people who are close to it. Like, and if that's not possible, really talk to the people and work on it. So, and with Ran, we had we didn't practice at all, but I knew him and he basically played himself. So, and I remember you were asking me, and you were like, what can I do? How should I behave, etc. And I was like, just be yourself. Like, it's really easy. Be yourself. So, yeah. And I think it also took a few takes with the elderly lady, because for her it was a whole new experience, of course. And she wasn't really mobile. She couldn't walk around a lot. So we needed to figure out where she stands and how she moves. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone did a great job, so it all looked very natural and came through. The chemistry is the girl and the guy, are they married now?
No, but there's another fun story behind that. It's that's life as we all know it, as its purest form. So what happened was they're not together. I'm sorry to disappoint everyone, but the girl didn't know at that time that she was pregnant. So by now she has 2 babies. But we were always thinking maybe we should like shoot a part 2 where she is with her children. But then I lived in the Netherlands, so it wasn't really possible, etc. But they met on the street, and then Tim, I think like a year later or 1.5 years later, and I met Tim afterwards, the guy with the curls. And he was like, Asbirg, I met Olivia. And, it was so fun because I saw her, she was sitting on a bench and then having this baby, and I was sitting next to her, and it was like, we should make a movie out of that. Like he himself was really touched about it, and her too. Yeah. So it was so much fun. Yeah.
So that'll be the other side of the story. The dirty diapers and household stuff, and messy home. What else was it? Or something else. Brian, did you have any questions?
Yeah, Asbirg, could you talk about intuition and going with feeling when writing and producing?
Especially in writing, and also in producing, but I mean, writing comes first for most of us. So right now, this years later, I mean, you saw it was made in 2014-15, so now it's like 6-7 years later. And what I learned in the last years even more was that's the most important thing, institution. And like I said, without even knowing, I was following it, and things came together. And I can just really encourage everybody to do that. Also, if you, of course, now looking back, I don't remember what wasn't really well that day or afterwards. But also meeting José González, talking to him, handing it into certain festivals or not, etc. I think it's very important. It's very, very important. And actually, it's a good question because at the moment we are deciding on when to shoot the next short film, and it takes place in winter time. And over here, spring is going to hit soon. So either we decide to shoot now, and we're not sure if that's possible, or we're going to shoot in autumn. But nobody knows what's going to happen in autumn. And again, one of the actors is a little bit older, so we don't know if he wants to travel or not with COVID, etc. And right now, I'm really longing and searching for my institution to lead me the way. And I'm not sure. I have no feeling yet. So this morning, I was like, okay, which door is going to open? Are we going to have the finances or not? And is the funding coming in at the right time, etc. And during production too, like one thing I really advise everybody to is maybe you don't want to shoot your first movie with kids. I love them a lot, all of them that you can see them. They're now teenagers. I still know them. I love them so much. But I didn't want to put any pressure on them to do certain things because I really wanted them to have fun. Otherwise, it won't work. So if you're on your way to produce something, maybe you want to start with adults because it makes things so much easier that day. So talking about institution and your gut feeling, maybe you want to keep that in mind. So. Yeah.
No children or animals on the first film.
Yeah, exactly.
Asbirg, so what advice would you give to someone? They have a script and they're here and they don't know what to do. I've written a story, I like it, but I'm not sure where to go next or who to speak to. Could you give some advice to anybody? And maybe not just even film, it could be a story, song or something. Is there anything that we can help people with? Any advice that you could give?
Well, lots of different things come to my mind now, like over the years. It's like, first of all, for me, it's, I read a quote by Wim Wenders, and it's a really long quote, but basically he says, do what only you can do. And for myself, I wrote underneath, there are so many stories to tell, so many, like for other artists, so many songs to sing, poems to write. But there are certain things that only you can do. Only you can write a certain story, a certain song, a certain poem. And that really stuck with me. Like I wrote it for myself, kind of to keep it in my mind. And I think if you have something like that, it's gonna have a place where to be published or to be seen, which nowadays can be lots of different things. Like you have Vimeo, you have Instagram, you have lots of different things. Talking about film, what really helped me now in the last months to come into producing something again was to find people who are like-minded. So I joined like 2 different film clubs in this area. So I was able to talk more about film, talk about my ideas, and I was really encouraged to talk to other filmmakers because some of them, they are doing really different things. Like topic-wise, we are like really not in the same perspective, but they're filmmakers. So they are thinking constantly about ideas, about funding, about how to do things. So that helps you so much. I mean, it's the same what you two are doing with Coffee Diaries. You're talking to each other about different projects and perspectives, etc. So that helps. So be surrounded by, I mean, that's what you always see on all these pages, like surround yourself with people who support you. But it's actually so true. It's so true. Because you have those moments where you think, where you can't believe in yourself, and you're like, especially in the beginning, and if you're doing it for yourself and not for anybody else yet. You're like, I can't do this. I'm not talented enough. And my ideas are bad. Like nobody's interested in this. It's very important to have people to talk about it too. And maybe you don't want to share everything, but to just talk about it. And what I did, I kind of tricked myself out the last 6 months. I had 2 screenplay ideas or scripts in my head, but I didn't write them yet. But I started talking about it. I was like, one day my film is going to be shown at this female festival in this area. I just posted it. People started asking me about it. They were like, what are you writing on? And I was like, yeah, I have this idea, but I didn't start yet. But they asked me about it. And now I did the same with a short film. And you kind of commit to yourself once it's out there in the world. Like, because people are going to ask you about it. They're going to be like, you posted this, so what is it now? And that's really encouraging, because if you have those moments where you're not working on it, people are going to ask you for it. So, and through the film clubs, I heard about possibilities of funding. So I know now where I can write an email to or ask people. And also I talked to like 2 guys who are professional screenwriters. And I talked to them about my idea. Like people who went the road before me, it's also something you hear all over again, but it makes so much sense. So I asked them questions and talked to them. In Germany, we have this huge movie. It takes place in Ghana and in Germany. And it's made by Jörg Fabian Rabe. And I really loved the movie and the actors. So I just wrote him on Instagram, and really it was again, I was thinking, oh, I'm stalking this person, what's going on? And I was just like, maybe you're up, maybe I can ask you something. It's not for a newspaper or something, but I'm just so curious how you did certain things in the process. And he was like, yeah, sure, I have time like in 3 weeks, but then we can talk. So I talked to him, asked him my questions and stuff like that. So I can just encourage everybody to really to ask people. Most people are so happy to share things that you're interested in. And if they're not, they're just not. Then another door will open. I'm quite sure about that.
There's a question, Ade, in the messages.
Oh, okay. In which messages?
From Robin on Zoom. Robin said, Asbirg, who edited the video?
Jakob did. So my DOP, he was editing the movie.
Okay.
So often you give those. It's a wise idea. Jakob just told me the other day, because of the next project, he was like, most of the time it makes sense that somebody else is the editor than the person who is directing or the DOP, because there's a twist coming in and things are not changing, but it's seen from a different perspective, and most often that makes a lot of sense. But Ade has visitors. But during that time, Jakob did it. But my first documentary, I did that one completely on my own, and then I was editing too. So thanks for the question, Robin.
Have you got any questions, Ade? Sorry.
Okay.
It's one more question from Robin Mohan. What software did you use, Asbirg?
I would need to ask him because it's so long ago. I'm sorry, Robin. You can write me later, or I can write Ade, and then But it was like a standard software, like Final Cut or something, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I can even get, because I know that Robin's working on a project to discuss. We could maybe ask you a question, Asbirg, at another time.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Just connect us. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Let's see. So how did you the finished product, the final cut, was it pretty consistent to what you had written down in the script?
Yeah, definitely. I thought it might be longer. Like that was something, because I had not much experience. I was thinking it's much longer. Like I thought it's like double that time, 7 minutes or something. So what I learned until now, I didn't know it back then, was that you really write your scenes down and you track the time. So you're kind of thinking about them, soaking them in, and you're stopping the time and thinking, how long is that scene? How long is that sequence, etc. So for all the filmmakers, maybe that makes not so much sense for any musicians, but really track those scenes down. Like I was painting everything and making sketches for Jakob, but I didn't time them out. So that makes a lot of sense. And that's also, if you don't know about that yet, I can just advise you to do it.
So you did you say painting them out? Like actual
sketching them out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So kind of like a storyboard sort of thing. Oh, okay.
But for every little thing. That was important in my communication with Jakob, so he knows what I would like to see. Okay.
Yeah. And how did you meet him?
Also fun story. See, it makes so much sense. I'm at Coffee Diaries and we have time and I can tell all these details. So I did ballet with is it ballet in English, right? Ballet with a girl, and I said to her, my documentary's been shown at a small festival in this city, maybe you want to come. And she was like, oh yeah, I have this friend, he's really into film. We're just finishing our A-levels now, but so just finishing school, but he's gonna study camera. And I was like, oh, I never met a person like that. That sounds very exciting. And so they came the evening my documentary was shown, and we talked, and Jakob was like, like very young. It's probably almost 10 years ago. So and we started talking, and I had a really good feeling about him, and we stayed in contact. And then he was doing his bachelor, I guess, and he showed me, I was always, please keep me up to date, show me your projects, what you're working on. And of course, at a point, he had much more to do with film than I did, but we really liked each other, and he was really supportive, and he was like, yeah, sure, we can do a short film together. That would be so much fun. And I felt really humbled again, because I'm not a professional, like professional work, doing it for a living. But he was like, yeah, that's fun. I would love to do that. So he's from the same city I'm living in right now, or also already at that point. And he lives in Cologne, but he's here from time to time. So we started talking, and I explained things to him. And as you can see, he did such a perfect, wonderful job in making these pictures. So
it's wonderful. Your story is so many chance meetings, chance occurrences, feeling right with somebody. It's really amazing how all these kind of things come together. Asbirg, it's a kind
of such thing as coincidence.
No such thing as coincidence. It's a kind of magic, I think. How would you describe it?
For me, it's really, there's no such thing as coincidence. Like really, now I'm older and I understand it even more, and I appreciate it even more. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I love this, and it makes so much sense. And really trust your feelings about people, about situations. If you're thinking, I should take a train later, then take a train later. Yeah. Like, I should enter that shop and have a coffee, then have a coffee. It's like, it's those small things. And dare to be a bit crazy. Like, it's like how you say it, you too, like in the unknown, like, like Tim, the main actor, I met him maybe 2 or 3 times, and then I invited him for a coffee and asking him if he wants to play that part. And again, I was afraid. Of course, I was afraid that he would be like, no, of course, I'm not going to play in your short film. What are you thinking? And no, but he said yes. So you never know. You can ask people and just see. And if they say no, you can still look for somebody else. So.
Yeah. Ade and I have this phrase, and we use it almost every discussion, stepping off into the black hole of I don't know. So we don't know sometimes where the conversation will lead, because we start somewhere and we end off somewhere else. And we talked about sometimes how inspiration comes when we both stop because we have nothing to say, because something that was said, that's the thing. And we didn't know we were going to get there. We didn't know how we got there, but that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And that's really amazing when you have these kind of dialogues and conversations with people, or like you said, Asbirg, you go into a coffee shop and you don't know why. And you sit down at a place because somebody over there has called your attention for something. But what it is, you don't really know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I go into a lot of coffee shops. Eleonora message, so sorry I could not be with you live. I will watch the recording. Okay. Yeah, so for those people that might not be able to stay for the whole recording, there will be it will be up on the Facebook page right after, so you can watch it right after. I also edit this, so like where we had a little bit of hiccups in the beginning, I'll cut all that out, and then we post it on YouTube as well. So no worries. Okay, so shall we pivot to our next film? Or Ron, do you have any other questions?
No, that's it. Well, maybe something else will come up. So Ade, let's let me do a little intro. So Ade has produced a few films, some of which I've seen, and I love his movies. And we talk about movies all the time, movies that we've seen, directors that we're inspired by. And so this was kind of the opportunity to see Ade's films and speak to him about it and see what he's learned from making films. How did he start making the films? And hopefully we can all learn something. So thank you, Ade, for showing your movie, showing your film.
Thank you. And so this film is The Big Catch. And it was my thesis film at Brooklyn College, where I studied film. So it was for, I forget which class, but anyway, it's a short film that I'll just play the film.
Excuse me. Excuse me, miss.
Huh?
Out of all the spots on the beach, is there a specific reason why you chose to fish right here next to me?
I like this spot.
I don't mean to be rude, but could you find another spot?
No, I don't think so. Do you mind put that out?
What?
Do you mind put that cigar out? It smells really bad.
You don't like the smell of cigar smoke? It's funny. You either love the smell of cigar smoke or you hate it. Personally, I love it.
Ah, fellow fishermen. Did you catch any fish? It's a beautiful day, isn't it?
Can you please?
Thank you.
Oh, I am sorry. Would you like some sweets from my country? They're a little bit hard to get, but when I can get them, it is a treat.
No.
Try them, they're very good. I have coconut and almond.
No, thank you.
Would you like some sweet?
No.
You're not going to catch anything with that.
I got something! I got something!
Are you okay?
Are you okay?
Yes, yes, thank you. It's still on the string.
It's a big one.
You almost got it. Be careful, careful. It's going to get tired. Oh, he got away.
It's okay.
Sorry, he got away.
I'm not here for the catch.
Yeah, so that's the film, and yeah, I was glad to be able to show it because I haven't watched it in a long time. So it's strange watching a film that I did 2008. How many years ago was that? I don't know. I'm not good with math, but
Almost 14.
yeah, yeah, and as you can see by some of the political references, it was that was the time that the U.S. was in the war with Iraq, which started in 2003, and I think it lasted until 2011. So they like Secretary Gates and stuff like that. Those are old. Those back, a while ago. So.
Ade, what came up for you having you made that film so long ago? Did anything new come up for you rewatching it?
I mean, as a filmmaker, you always kind of look at the mistakes that you've made when you make a film. At least I do. So like. Those are the same like glaring ones that I notice when I made the film. I'm like, oh yeah, it's that thing. I should have done this, or yeah, I should have done that. So it's a little bit easier to kind of digest now. Watching it, then I look at it for what it is at that time. In my life. Yeah, I think the idea and the concept is something that I feel still connected to, so it's nice being, because it's really about connection, connecting with other. The quote at the end pretty much sums up the whole thing, pretty much, the idea of how we try to get away, especially live in a lot of what the film is about is my experience with living in cities and living in New York, growing up in New York, but it reaches further beyond that, so it's not limited to that. But how we try to find ways to get away from people. Sometimes it could get too much, and you want to have that solitude which is great. And so each one of these characters, especially the first two, has their way of getting away, and having some space to themselves and being away from people. And as many probably experience, like sometimes like like I would go out into nature, and this was very recently, and just want to be there with nature, and then you see someone else walking down the trail, and I'm like, oh, it's another person. It's just something about that. And they say hi awkwardly, and I say hi, and I kind of just want my space, and nothing wrong with that. But also there is this opportunity to connect with others as well, which is important too. I think to be able to do that. So.
This is a question for both Asbirg and Ade. The importance of silence in films. If I go to you first, Asbirg.
Yeah, it's what I said to Ade in the beginning when I was like, oh, they start talking in your movie so late. It's like it's the same in Flores, where they only say what's really necessary. Like actually it's only 2 sentences in the whole movie. So people often say when they talk about filmmaking is try to keep the role's mouth shut as long as you can. Like they only start talking once they really, really need to talk, once it's really, really necessary. And that's what you Ade did too in the Big Catch. It's like, and I laughed at. That's what I was why I was laughing in between, because you can see everything in their faces. You can see how annoyed he is that somebody else is coming, and when he's on his bike before, you can see how happy he is to get away and to have a solitude. And then this other person comes and he's like, no, and you can see everything in his face. So that's so important when you tell stories through pictures, and because the pictures are working and the pictures have their own stories to tell. So they don't need. It's a lot about quietness in a way, or not words.
Yeah. I find it's very important to be able to tell the story through the silence, through the performance. You don't need a whole bunch of dialogue, and I think in most films that I've been have had a part of or directing, or what ends up happening is you start cutting a lot of stuff down to the essentials. Like there's a lot of the extra stuff that you just don't need. Which is it's funny because like for me in terms of how I relate to people and in my conversations with people, I tend to beat around the bush and talk a lot and not really get to the point. And I found that to come through in some of my writing and in some of my films. So part of the exercise for me is just learning to just kind of get to the point and just trust that the audience, because the audience has a part to play as well. Like you don't have to spoon feed people. I think you have to have some trust in the audience. And also maybe some people won't get everything, right off the bat, and that's okay. Some of my favorite films, I have to watch like 3 times to really get. Like, there's a lot of things that I think are missed the first time I watch it, and so if you're watching like a soap opera or something like that, or certain types of TV shows, maybe there's a lot, it's really dialogue driven, but that's just not my style of filmmaking. And those things are entertaining in their own right as well. So.
Okay, here's a question from Robin for Ade and Asbirg. Let me see it again, sorry. For Ade and Asbirg, do you follow a story structure when writing the screenplays for your films? I go to Ade first.
Story structure, pretty much. The typical beginning, middle, and end. In screenwriting, there's you can do things called write-in beats. So you get index cards, and you can write different beats. Breaking down the scene. That I find that structure to be important, and it gives room to explore, to play with it. Like, I find structure to be really important. It doesn't take away from exploring different things in the story or coming up with, improvising or anything else like that. But just like kids need some structure to, and then they're free to play and explore. I think it's the same for film. So for writing.
Asbirg?
At first, I don't have a structure at all. Like it's just pouring out, just because first it's in my head, and then it needs to be somewhere, either on the laptop or paper. And then the structure comes in. So then I look at it and I turn it around, and maybe I cut things out and put it somewhere else, etc. But I went to a screenplay seminar, like online, for a weekend in autumn, and that guy was super structured when talking about stories. Like he had for every analyze, he had a different movie and a different movie scene. He had like hundreds of movie scenes. So he was talking to us for 2 minutes, showing us a film for 10 minutes, and it went on like that the whole time. It was amazing. So I hear his voice in my ear now, because if you would have asked him, he would be like there's only structure and nothing else. If you have plus, then you have a minus. If you have A, you have B, and etc. So I think it really depends on who you ask, but I think most of people still agree that at first you just write down, you just start to have the ideas, and then you structure them. So
that's I agree with that. Just get it out somehow. I do a lot of free writing, and sometimes it might just be exploring one of the characters may come up first, drawing pictures, and sometimes a sort of philosophy or idea, you may expand on that idea first, and then you kind of find a way to organize things and to tell it, in story format.
Here's a question for both of you again. Both of your films are about connection, and because I know you both now, it doesn't surprise me, but can you speak about, both of you, about human connection and your films? And I go with Ade first.
Human connection. It's come out in most of the films that I do, this idea of connecting, and part of it is because it's part of my own experience, part of my journey of connecting with others, connecting with myself as well. I have a hard time connecting with others has always been a sort of a struggle for me in my life. I've always been like an introvert, kind of nervous, had my insecurities and everything like that, and I've always looked at people who connected and have this deep connection or seem to, and I would always wanted that so much and thought, wow, that's so great to have these connections. And the few connections that I have had are great and really nourishing. So that's a natural thing that comes out in my films. And one of the things about the connection that for me is important is, you're with connections, there can come conflict. Any sort of connection, you have conflict, and so one of the lessons is if I'm able to enter that conflict with the intention to learn and with the idea of I don't know, so I might be rigidly holding my beliefs and ideas, and if I could just put that aside and say, well, let me just listen to this other person's perspective with the idea of I don't know and I can learn, then I find that I expand, as a person, because my world has just expanded more. So, I try to somehow bring that into my writing and into films.
Asbirg?
Yeah, I'm actually right now, because I don't know Ade before. I just met you now, and I'm so surprised saying that you're an introvert living for yourself, because you seem to be such a nice person, so interested in people, and it's New York is so far away, but once you're in Europe, we have to meet up for a coffee, for real coffee. Like I'm here, I'm like, are you really this person? So, but yeah, of course, but. For me, it's a bit the opposite. Although I was really relating to the conflict, because when we talk about Flores, as one can see, it's all about connection from the beginning. Like it's this young man surrounded by people, meeting 3 special parties, and then meeting a girl, and he's running after her. So it's purely about connection, and I think that's what life is about. And while you were talking, Ade, I was thinking what we all experienced during the last 2 years. It's like the meetings by chance are really, they became rare, like because we're not traveling, we're not all the time in coffee shops, etc. When talking about connection, for me was important. I was always a very open person. I made so many positive encounters with people, and then I finished my studies and I started working, and at work with my clients, etc., and also with my colleagues, I had so many conflicts. So when you said that, Ade, I was like, that's me. And I started to lose trust in people. I wasn't as open anymore and outgoing, and really I became more introvert. And before, it was really easy for me to connect to people and talk to people. And it's always, when I'm out on the street, people always ask me for directions. I'm somewhere, there are 20 people around, but people ask me about, do you know where this and that is in the city? Or do you know where the blah, blah, blah? So they always ask me, and I'm like, what is it about me that they ask me? And that part of myself was really shut during the time I made this really bad work experiences. And it took me, I think, like a year or maybe 1.5 years to come back to a place where I really trust people generally, and where I'm so happy to meet people by chance and talk to them. And what really helped me was my workplace where I'm now. It's like there are so great people, beautiful people, and it really helped me to trust people again. So now I'm back at that point where I was when I was shooting Flores, and what comes back into my next film, where it's also about connection. I think connection, it's such a good question, because it's like, that's what life is about. It doesn't matter if you're in connection with only one person or with 20 different persons, people. Like, It's always, that's what life is about. Even if you're living in the forest all by yourself, you're connected to nature. So that's what it comes down to, I would say.
So Ron, let's ask you a question. So how did you connect with your character?
Well, I went deep inside and I went to the emotion of things. Yeah. Like Asbirg said, I was just playing myself. But do you know what? Being on that set, it was, I remember sitting on the grass and you had the rabbits in there jumping around there. And what I really loved, I started talking to the person who was making the sandwiches, and I'm talking to this other person, and you meet all these people. And we all came together I came from London, people from all over the place. We came together to be in this time, in this place, to produce this work.
Hmm.
And to be in this space where everyone just wanted to do that. I came away and I learned so much. And also, because I've known Asbirg for a long time, I hadn't seen Asbirg, the film director. And I remember coming back after, and I spoke to Asbirg, and I said, Asbirg, how you did this, and you organized this, and you organized that. I was blown away, but I was also really inspired. Really inspired. And by both of you, I've been wanting to get us together for a while too on here, and for both of you to go out there and show your films, to talk about your work, to inspire other people, and on the themes of connection, which I think even in this day and age, when lots of us have been away for a long time, that's such an important thing. And to learn about people from different places. And I know I got away from the original question, but I learned a lot, being around it and being around both of you and talking about your films and how you go from that first step of writing into the next part. So thank you very much.
And I have a follow-up question because Ron, you've written a script, or at least maybe a few scripts. So we discussed one of them, which I found was really good. What was tell us a little bit about your writing process.
Yeah, so a few years ago, I kind of got to this place where, I'm going to forget good, bad, right or wrong. I'm going to enjoy what I'm doing. And I had an idea, about, I've had a few ideas about stories, but this particular idea was, a coffee shop owner who was inspired by a guy who I met in Bali. And I thought about, what about all these questions that I have in life, if I can ask them in a book form or a film form? If I can maybe raise these questions and maybe even in the raising of them, find something out. And firstly, enjoy doing it. Not to be so ultra critical. It's not good enough. I'm not ready. I'm not this. I'm not that. And I think a lot of times, especially when I was younger, growing up, young, you would do something and then you'll spend the next hour beating yourself up because it's not good enough. I think you're here. You're doing the best while you can with what you have now, and go for it. And so at the moment I'm working on a few projects and I really enjoy doing it. And as Asbirg says, being around people who are that way as well, who are really encouraging, and we can go into this space and always learning, always trying to find something out, questioning, and love of what you're doing, I think.
Yeah. And for those that don't know Ron is never without ideas. he has, I mean, you must have like 50 ideas per day, constant ideas, which is great because one of the I think as a creative person, one of the most important things for me is just having the idea. Once the idea comes, then you have something to work with. One of my favorite directors, David Lynch, would say, he was asked, well, how do you get started? Like, what is your routine, or what's important to make films? And he said a good idea. He said, if you have a good idea, it is treated, you have to jump on it as fast as you can. Don't write it down. Do not lose that idea because it's gold. If you have a good idea, you feel in your bones, it doesn't have to be worked out, or you don't have to know how it ends, but if you have that idea, hold on to it. And that's so true. Those ideas come, and good to write them down.
Is that movie? Sorry, Asbirg. Go ahead, Asbirg.
No, I just wanted to say I have this notebook next to my bed, and I don't use it much, but when I use it, it's really worth it. So it's always good to have pen and paper next to your bed. So, and also to Ran, I'm so glad that you start sharing your 50 ideas per day, because there was time when you didn't. And I'm so happy about the time now, like the past years where you started to share it. And as you can see, they're blooming and flourishing, and it's so wonderful. Just keep on doing. And if it's 100 a day, it doesn't matter, because it's there and people are going to grasp it and take it, and it's going to grow. So,
yeah.
Thank you. I mean, this came from, so the podcast started when Ade started doing the guided meditations and more. And we both spoke about, what about if we would speak to people who we wanted to speak to, rather than wait for other people to do it. And I think the time is, I feel the time is now. If you have the idea, you got that script, you got that poem, that song, you got that pottery you would like to make, your needlework, whatever it is. Now there are so many options and opportunities that we don't have to go to someone else, and we can produce them. And I think the glorious thing about this venture, what's happening even right now, maybe there's going to be opportunities for collaboration. And we can help each other. Oh, so Asbjørg's doing this, Ade's doing this. Oh, what about if and he knows someone who knows this person. So what about if we kind of get together and be this, I call it the tribe or the family, where we help each other in little projects, and then we each grow. And I think that's the aim I feel of the Coffee Diaries, is to getting this collaboration going.
Talking about collaboration, I have 2 questions about the movie, Ade, because we still have some time left, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, it's so much fun. Time flies. So,
yeah.
The first question is, maybe you can talk more about how you came with the idea up. Like, I'm just gonna summary, and then you can give a summary.
Okay.
Like how the idea came up, and how long you actually were shooting and editing. And then I saw at the end your whole family was involved. Is that right? Like, it's like Richardson.
Yeah.
And I love that so much, because once you do movies, everybody's gonna help and jump in. So it's really encouraging to see it even with you and see everybody was there. And can you talk to us about the music? The music is so beautiful, and I love how the music changes with every person. So maybe you want to talk about who did it and how that developed. Like, okay, sure. That's it. Point.
Yeah. First question: how the idea came about? I don't even I don't exactly remember. I do remember. I think it started with a character and the idea of getting away. Um, that location is actually in Queens. I don't know if any of you are familiar with New York, but um, within New York City, there's Queens, Manhattan, Bronx, Brooklyn, and that location is on the border of where they were fishing is on the border of Brooklyn and Queens. So in Brooklyn, it's a big city atmosphere, and in that section of Queens, there's a beach there. And when I just loved the location. When you see one of the characters, the character who had the stick, the fishing rod stick with the missing, the amputee, that structure in the beginning, that's a bunker, a War World II or One bunker. So that was there. That was set up in case we would get invaded. So there's a lot of history there, and I just really like the location. I like the idea of getting away and trying to get out of the city and getting away from people, but then people being there and having to, like, what's the chance? Like Ron says, there are no coincidences. So what's the chance that people are going to show up at that exact spot at that exact time when he's trying to get away, and and he was set on having his piece and on what he wanted, also how we can get into these routines. So his thing had become a routine as well, and then when something unexpected encroaches on our routine and shakes things up, how we deal with that, that change of the routine. So the idea came, and I did, as Asbirg mentioned, a lot of writing and free, just writing whatever came and going with the characters and drawing pictures. And at one point, I would talk to my dad. I was kind of like bouncing things off of him, and just working out the characters. What do they want? What are they about? And different things like that. So that's how it came, and I just kind of took that and put it into the script. The structure of it, the way it was edited, is a little bit different than how it was in the script format. So we changed it a little bit during the editing. How you see, like, one in the editing, you see we introduce one character, and then and even the music changes when we introduce the other one, and then the other one, and then they all come onto the beach. It was a little bit different in the script, and so that part changed. And I think, what was the other question? It was about the family, or
no, like the technical stuff, like how many days were you shooting and how many days were you editing, and then the music. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, and so there were a few family members. My brother, Kari Richardson, he was like our technical advisor for the fishing, because he's really a big fisherman, whatever you call it. Yeah, so we use all of his equipment and everything. And my sister, Cartina, she was the art director and helped with that sort of stuff. The technical stuff, it was... What was it? I think it was a 2-day shoot. Yeah, I think it was a 2-day shoot. I can't remember, but yeah. So yeah, it was 2 days, which was kind of tight because it is I think it's about a 12-minute film, so there was a lot of pages to cover, and with directing, I work really fast. Usually I'm not someone who's like, okay, do it over and over and over and over. I'm more of kind of like jump in there. Okay, we got it. Let's go on to the next one. So and I try to plan, well in the beginning to be able to do that. Yeah, so I think it was about 2 days. And what was the other one?
The music.
There was something else. Oh, music. Yeah, music was from a composer, David. I'm forgetting his last name. Yeah, he's gone on to like do big movies and TV and commercials. I can never afford him now, So yeah, so I did pay him a little bit, like a student fee. I luckily met him when he was just starting off, so he did charge me a little bit. But yeah, he did the music for the whole thing, and which I really liked. And yeah, he's really good. So, and yeah, it was. Did I answer all the questions? I don't know.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you so much. Yeah.
To both of you, you don't have to go into detail, but can you tell us maybe about some upcoming projects, anything you're working on? Ade, would you like to go first?
How about Asbirg? You I'm going to think a little bit.
All right, Asbirg, you're about to go.
So there are 2 things I'm working on. One is my first long, how do you say that? Like
feature?
Feature film, yeah. Like in German, it's a different word, so I'm struggling. Sorry. So I'm working on that script. I'm not really. I'm not sure if I'm able to direct it because it needs more money, etc. So I would be already happy if I was able to sell the book, the screenplay. So let's see how that goes. So I'm working on not writing it completely down, but writing all the scenes and talking to people, etc. That's also something I learned on the way, that you don't produce the finished products in one day. You're just working on it, and you work and work and work on it. So that's the one point, and it's actually a story that's with me since 2017, 16. But that's what I meant in the beginning. It's really bothering me all the time. Like it's really, I have the urge that it's something that I need to do. And the short film I'm planning is something I will do by myself and a low budget again, together with Jakob. And it's a story about an old man who gets invited for Christmas by his brother, who he hasn't met and seen for years. And it's like end of November, and he's not sure when is Christmas Day. And he keeps on going up and down to his neighbor and asking which day it is. And in the end, she says, you know what, I'm going to drive you there, and we're just going to see, like, then you're safe and you don't need to bother me anymore in a way. And it's Christmas Day, and they're driving up there, and they want to ring the bell, and the house is empty. And then the girl just says, okay, maybe next year. And obviously the man is confused and not sure what's happening. And in the end, they celebrate Christmas together. And it's a really personal story because I took care of my neighbor who has dementia for like almost a year. And I looked for a way to tell this story. It's not as dramatic as now the short film will be, but it's definitely about him and for him. I mean, I'm going to make it for him to kind of, because he has not much contact to his family, and I don't think many people know him, but I kind of want people to know him and who he is. And that's something I learned about in the screenplay seminar workshop, was the guy who taught us. He was like, Asbirg, maybe it's interesting to change the perspective and really to tell the story out of the man perspective and not the neighbor perspective, because it's very rare that you have a story where the dementia patient is kind of the perspective and not somebody else who's taking care of him, etc. So what we are discussing at the moment is how we can translate his feeling for time and space into the movie. So that's where we are at now and what we're discussing.
Great. That sounds exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's amazing before Ade answers this question, no such fear as a coincidence. I was listening to this guy speak last night about his mum who got dementia, and the mum doesn't recognize the family around them now and the care workers, but she remembers significant moments in her childhood. And through that, he sees his mum, what the impact these things had on his mum. These little things that she kind of put by the side. And he learned so much about his mother's life through her dementia because of the things that were important to her that she had never spoken about, but which were the things that she remembered. And I watched that talk last night, so thank you.
Yeah, it's actually a topic that a lot of people get in touch with at the moment, sadly, because I think dementia is an illness which is worse than loads of different other things, because you don't lose your body, but you lose your mind, and there are phases when you're realizing that is happening. So yeah, but that's a whole different Coffee Diaries episode. So, yeah, Ade, what are you working on?
Ade?
A few things. One of the things I actually just started, and Ron knows this. I wrote a feature script years ago, probably back when around the time where I made the big catch. So I did a draft of that, and then I did some reworking around like a few years after or a year after, and have a good bit of it done. And recently I started reading it again, and Ron has read it, and we talked a little bit about it. And then I started, actually within the last few days, I started getting back into sort of like write-in session mode where I sit down and write. And so what I've decided to do is to kind of redo because I was having a hard time. I wanted to pick up where I left off, but I didn't feel connected. And as a writer, like once you kind of lose that momentum, and I'm not the same person I was then, and I'm just not invested in it in the same way. But I see what I was trying to do in that story, and I've spent hours upon hours and days, like years working on this. So I thought there is something there. And just recently, like kind of like I had a light bulb moment, and it was like, oh, okay, I can see what was missing, why I wasn't supposed to complete it at that time. And it's going to be a new thing. So I'm starting from the beginning, but with the same idea, but with the kind of missing link, but I have to kind of do it differently. And a lot of the things that, like some of the scenes where felt very inspiring and exciting for me before, and I could see the message there, because there was a part of myself in there that has changed. The idea is still the idea is still the same, but the sort of content is more updated. So like just like in the old film, where I was filming in 2008, the Iraq War. Now it would be something else that we're dealing with in our culture and in our politics. The same thing with this, because because I don't feel connected with what was in it before, and so it would feel like I'd be untrue to the story. So that's exciting to be, and it's also scary because I don't know where it's going to go. I have no idea. I'm kind of, and there's part of me when I'm writing now, I'm still like, oh, it has to lead to this place like the old script was. So how am I going to connect it with that? And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to. It's new, it's fresh, and we'll see where it goes. So that's one of the things I'm currently writing and feeling inspired about. And then I have another script idea that I did a lot of writing on, another feature, a film that is very close to my heart, and my life, that I'm going to work on as well. And then, Ron and I have tons of things that we're really excited, things that we're exploring, besides with this podcast, where we're taking it, and other things, and book ideas and things like that I think is going to be coming soon. So yeah, and I like Ron's idea of collaborating. One of the things that I'm always envisioning and hoping comes into fruition sometime is creating a community with other creative people and collaborating and building through our art, finding a way to put something out there that is inspiring, that's beautiful, that helps to create a beautiful world, and so that's kind of my dream. So that's one of the things I love about the Coffee Diaries, because we're having a chance to begin to build those relationships with others
across the globe.
Yeah, I mean, that's wonderful. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I love that. I grew up on the countryside in Germany on a farm, and I didn't leave Germany much until I was 12 or something, and didn't travel much. And then I traveled as much as I can almost in my 20s. Ron knows about that. I was like everywhere, all over the place. And so I'm always so excited still, like it's my inner child, I guess, that's so excited when I meet people from different places, because I'm like, wow, the world is so small, of course, but it's still so big. So it's so nice to have this chat, and that's possible.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's been fantastic to have this opportunity for us all to get together. Like I said, I've been wanting to bring Asbirg and Ade into one place so we can all talk and chat and see what could come up. And Ade's always talking about community, building community, and the possibilities of what can happen if we open ourselves up and share with people and share with friends. And who knows where we all might be one day. We could all be. You remember Asbirg? We talked about, because I know it's not on now, that festival. The festival. In Mali. Yeah. Ade, we talked about there's a music festival in Mali, Ade.
In the desert.
In the desert. And we thought about it'd be a great idea to go there and see it and film it or whatever. And maybe Ade as well. We've recently, Ade and I over the last 2 weeks have spoken about something in Africa. So, So who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. Kind of a creative retreat.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, so we are at the 2-hour mark. Time flies. I'm sure we can talk longer, but I think this is probably a good time to wrap it up. Where could people see your work or get in touch or anything like that?
So on the normal social media stuff. So Facebook, as you can see right now, and Instagram with Asbirg Naranjo. So just my name. Okay. And the Vimeo link, maybe we can post it in the comments or something.
Yeah.
So people can watch Flores. Yeah. Okay,
great. Yeah, we'll put it in the description section there. So, and whatever other links you want people to go to, just share it to Ron, and we'll put it in there. Thank you to our audience, both on Zoom and Facebook, and any people interested in making films. What I would say, and I think Ron alluded to this as well, is you may have ideas and think, oh, no one's gonna like this, or this is crazy. I think one of the things that I've kind of struggled with, and I'm starting to kind of get over, is, and Asbirg said this too in her own way, is that everyone has like a unique thing to share. So like your story needs to, needs to be heard, needs to be added to this, is a thread in the fabric of this existence that we're in. There's no other you, no other person with the exact same story, exact same history. Even your mistakes or so-called imperfections or whatever, like those are great. Those come out, into the creative work. And, even if it is an idea that has been done before, it will still be done in, with your flavor and your, you will still come through. So I think one of the most important things is to really have belief in yourself. It's so important. Just do it, write it. So that's what I would share with any person thinking about making a film or anything creative or doing anything. So,
thank you, Ade. Thank you to two really inspirational people who are following you're both inspiring all of us who have creative endeavors. You've answered, I think, a lot of questions that people may have had. And it's been a pleasure to hear you both speak so passionately about your lives and about your film and what you've learned. So thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the invitation and for this space and the time to just having this. It was really enriching and such a present. Thank you so much. This will carry me through the next weeks. And I'm going to be back at some point and talk about the next project.
Yeah.
We're going to have a real coffee together. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've got to have somewhere at some point in some place, we'll be sitting in a place and we'll be having a cup of coffee together.
Oh, yes. That would be great. Yeah.